She was the school's most famous genius and beauty. During the awakening ceremony, she even unlocked a rare class, the Spirit Swordswoman. But honestly, I couldn't care less. Because on my own awakening day, I triggered a phenomenon that shook the heavens and the earth. A divine six-winged angel descended upon the world, along with the 3 legendary hidden classes. When Lu Rian saw that, she begged to be with me, desperate to start a family. Even the top 2 universities in the country got into a massive bidding war over my enrollment. Yet, I bowed and turned down every single invitation. I had to. I needed to scrape together enough money to cure my younger sister's mysterious illness first. Little did I know, my sister had also awakened a hidden class, the Frost Snow Maiden. In this world, a game has merged with reality. 200 years ago, an unprecedented catastrophe struck the planet. Since then, dungeon portals have been appearing across the globe at random intervals. Humanity must hunt down the monsters and alien races within them to keep our homes safe. Just like in a video game, people can clear dungeons, kill monsters, and level up. To earn enough to support my sister, I chose the path of a professional. In my past life, I was an orphan who never felt a shred of motherly love. In this life, our mother passed away early, leaving only my sister, Zhou Yun. She's suffering from a strange disease that requires the magical mana of a priest just to keep her alive. A medical bill of $3 million is enough to crush me completely. So, to cure her as fast as possible, awakening a class and grinding dungeons for gold is my only option. And today is the annual awakening ceremony. Right now, the ceremony is being led by a level 24, first advancement mage. He taps his staff gently against the awakening formation. In an instant, a wave of energy erupts from the impact, knocking the surrounding crowd back in total disarray. I watched from below, my eyes filled with envy. Generally speaking, the starting salary for even a basic first advancement mage is at least 7 figures. A moment later, my homeroom teacher stepped into the crowd to call names. The students called up can enter the formation and choose one of 3 classes that best suits them. Our teacher looked a bit dejected because the class's overall performance this year has been pretty poor. Nearly 2/3 of the students have awakened as life tier classes. As for the remaining third, even those who got combat tier classes ended up with the lowest ranked ones. Just then, a teacher from the next class over came by to talk trash. "Oh, Mr. Wang. Looks like only your class monitor is left, right?" I heard that while his grades are okay, he failed to awaken any talent. During his coming-of-age ceremony 2.5 days ago, he didn't miss a single word, and neither did I. But for now, I can only try my best to stay calm as I slowly walk toward the awakening formation. When I stepped inside, the class selection panel didn't pop up immediately like it did for everyone else. Instead, the necklace on my chest started flashing violently. Suddenly, a golden window appeared right in front of my eyes. Strongest class system activated. Congratulations to host Zhou Yi for awakening S-rank talent, Guardian of the Holy Angel. All light element skill effects are now doubled. My god, I rubbed my eyes in disbelief. Is this my long-awaited talent? I was actually worried that I'd be stuck as a low-level life class forever. The 3 classes you can choose during the ceremony are heavily tied to your inherent talent. Since I've awakened an S-rank talent, it means whatever class 1 get won't be half bad. Since only I can see the system panel, my teacher still had a look of pity on his face. He wasn't wrong to worry, even if my theoretical scores were ranked first in the entire grade. Failing to awaken a talent is a fatal flaw for any professional. However, at that exact moment, a blinding pillar of golden light erupted from the sky, piercing through the clouds. I immediately charged straight into the center of the class awakening formation as countless shards of light rained down from the sky. The light fell upon everyone's heads. At this moment, even our veteran dean, who had seen it all, wore an incredibly grave expression. This scene before us, it had to be the awakening phenomenon, described in the ancient texts. Our school might actually produce a legendary tier professional this year. Just then, a blurry figure materialized right before my eyes. I focused my gaze and realized it was a holy, 6-winged angel. But unlike everyone else, my new talent allowed for fusion. It began merging directly into my body. It then transformed into a glowing sigil on my forehead. I could feel a massive surge of energy, relentlessly crashing through my internal organs. While I was absorbing this angelic power, my 3 class options finally appeared: Light Mage, Holy Priest, and Paladin. But all 3 were legendary, unique hidden classes with no standard level divisions. I had to choose based on what I actually needed. The Light Mage is a pure damage dealer. While its long-range output is incredible, its survival skills are relatively lacking. In high-intensity dungeons early on, one mistake could lead to a fatal accident. Now, the Holy Priest has plenty of survival skills and can even resurrect others. But only 2 or 3 of its skills actually deal damage. In most dungeon runs, you're stuck relying on teammates. Personally, I prefer clearing things solo. So the priest isn't for me. That leaves the Paladin, a true jack of all trades. They can tank and they can hit. They work as both a frontliner and a DPS. While no single stat is overwhelmingly high, its overall profile is perfect for all types of dungeons. Plus, my talent, Holy Light Affinity, can boost the damage of light-based skills. This perfectly compensates for the Paladin's slightly lower damage output, so, my choice is clear. I'm becoming a Paladin. Once the ceremony ended, I politely turned down my classmates' party invites. The second I got home, I hurriedly pulled up my system panel. First things first, I needed to allocate my starter attribute points. I decided to dump every single point into strength. Since Paladins already have defensive measures, if my damage is too low early on, it'll kill my farming efficiency. Then, the daily quest panel popped up. I stared at the window, lost in thought. This Paladin challenge looked like a specialized starter trial for my class. The rewards are huge, so it's definitely worth a shot. I reached out and tapped accept. Immediately, the system notified me that it was matching me with a level appropriate trial grounds. Then came a warning. Take this trial seriously. If you die in here, you die in the real world as well. A split second later, I found myself standing inside a deep, bottomless cavern. Judging by the vibe, this is behemoth territory. These monsters aren't very bright, and they only have a few attack patterns. For now, it's the perfect training partner. Sure enough, the beast that stomped out was almost identical to the behemoths in my textbooks. I easily dodged its sneak attack. It seems my physical stats have improved significantly. Even empty-handed, I could probably tank its assault. My eyesight now can slow its movements down by hundreds of times. My body's current strength is beyond my wildest imagination. This is exactly what you'd expect from a legendary hidden class. I wonder though, what kind of surprises will the Paladin's skills bring me? I crossed my arms over my chest, my gaze turning cold and sharp, as a cross-shaped light began to form. This is the Paladin's crowd control skill, Blade of Pure White. It has the power to completely immobilize the target's actions. The light blade strikes the beast, flashing a bright cross that instantly locks its movements in place. A cross strike. Perfect. Next, I unleash my offensive skill, Tiger Assault. A follow-up move. With a deafening boom, I have the behemoth by the throat in the blink of an eye. I then slam it with all my might, hurling it high into the air. I leap up after it, my fist glowing with the intense power of a paladin. I punch a massive hole straight through its body. Ding dong, a system notification rings out. Congratulations on successfully slaying the behemoth. Please choose one of the following rewards. I think about it for a moment and choose an iron one-handed sword. Usually, I'd take the attribute points without a second thought. My wallet is bone dry. Every penny I have has been poured into my sister's medical bills. For someone in my position, having a solid weapon is the better move. I exit the trial room. Back in the real world, the alarm on my phone starts blaring. It's a reminder that it's time to head to the hospital to see my sister. Meanwhile, in Zhou Yun's hospital room, because I'm several days behind on the payments, the head nurse is being incredibly cold and rude. She's demanding that the bills be paid in full immediately. If not, she's threatening to kick my sister out of the ICU by tomorrow. Right then, two strangers suddenly appear in the doorway of the ward. About 30 minutes later, I finally arrive at the hospital, rushing as fast as I can. I push the door open and see my sister, who had been in a coma for days, finally awake. But standing right next to her are two men in suits I've never seen before. While I'm still trying to make sense of it, one of the men walks toward me. "Hello, Mr. Zhou," he says. "I am Secretary General Zhao from the city government. I've come here to discuss some matters with you. Do you have a moment to talk?" My heart skips a beat. My parents were just ordinary workers when they were alive. Logically, there should be no reason for someone from the government to be looking for me. Could this be about what happened at the awakening ceremony? After thinking for a couple of seconds, I walk over and shake his hand. Of course, that's fine. But it's not very private here. Let's find somewhere else to talk. We head to the cafe downstairs. Once we're seated, Secretary Zhao gets straight to the point. As it turns out, the mayor heard this morning that I had awakened the S-rank talent, Guardian of the Holy Angel, and had even class changed into the unique hidden profession, Paladin. Because of this, he's personally arranged a batch of cultivation resources for me, currently held in a bank vault. As he speaks, Secretary Zhao hands me a silver key. Finally, it clicks. The mayor wants to be my angel investor. These resources might be a drop in the bucket for him. But to me, this is a massive favor. To get into the dungeons and start making money as fast as possible. I take the key from Secretary Zhao without a moment's hesitation. Fast forward to the next day. I'm with my homeroom teacher, heading toward the school's admissions office. In this world, the awakening ceremony is basically the equivalent of the college entrance exams from my past life. Once you awaken a rare profession, famous universities from all over will come to the school for special recruitment. The moment I push open the door to the admissions office, the entire room goes dead silent. Then, the teacher closest to me stands up, looking absolutely desperate to talk to me. "Since the candidate is here, let's have a fair competition." Acting as the representative for Qishan University, he lays out their offer. If I enroll with them, they'll give me a bonus of 2 million dragon coins and 3 exclusive skill books for the Paladin class. I'm stunned. That 2 million dragon coins is enough to cover my sister's hospital stay for an entire year. And those Paladin skill books are priceless treasures you can't even buy with money. They might even be worth more than the resources the mayor gave me. None of them were quite as valuable. Next up was Chuanan University. If I enrolled at Chuanan, I'd also be rewarded with Paladin skill books. Regardless of my grades, they promised to give me 3 Paladin skill books every single year. Doing the math, that means I'd get 12 skill books as a reward over 4 years. What's more, a level 56, 3rd advancement knight would personally tutor me after I started. The old principal's face stiffened. He hadn't expected the usually stingy Chuanan University to be so incredibly generous this time. You have to understand, level 56 powerhouses are rare even on the entire blue planet. Becoming a personal disciple to someone like that means your future is basically set. Seeing this, the old principal urged me to accept the offer immediately. But I just shook my head. I walked forward and gave a deep, respectful bow. I appreciate the kindness, teachers, but I'm choosing to pass on this special recruitment opportunity. Because I want to get into one of the top 3 universities in the country. Once I said that, the recruiter, who had been perfectly friendly, suddenly snapped. You've got a lot of nerve, kid. No matter how great your talent is, without enough resources to back you up, you'll just end up as a nobody. Besides, from what I've looked into, you've got a sister at home in poor health. Without our resource support, you'll probably struggle just to stay alive with your own skills. With that, the teachers stormed out of the office in a rage. Although it was harsh to hear, they weren't entirely wrong. The total number of spots for those top 3 universities never exceeds 300 a year. And their search is incredibly wide. Besides humans, races like goblins and elves are also in the running. These 3 top-tier schools don't care about a candidate's talent rank or their class type. They only select each year's freshmen based on their actual exam scores. So, trying to stand out among millions of candidates is no easy feat. But right now, I feel a surge of confidence. Those top 3 schools are definitely within my grasp. So, on the day of the official exam, I chose to solo the nightmare difficulty gloomy forest dungeon. Even though paladins in a team usually take the front line or a support role, this class's skill mechanics actually allow for solo play. Plus, if I go it alone, I can keep all the clearance rewards for myself. But my confident look seemed like pure arrogance to everyone else. After all, even the honors students were teaming up just to be safe. Even though I'd awakened the hidden paladin class, they still didn't think I could pull off a solo clear of a nightmare level dungeon. Before the exam began, the examiner warned us sternly. Death in the dungeon is real death. If you run into a danger you can't handle, you must use your return scroll immediately. After the warning, he announced in a low voice that the timer had officially started. And then, I stepped into the teleportation array and entered the nightmare level gloomy forest. Meanwhile, over in the spectator area, the director of the city's education bureau saw me standing there all by myself and furiously questioned the principal. Why on earth is he being allowed to solo? Everyone knows that a paladin in a team has that 1 + 1 is greater than 2 synergy. Not to mention, I'd picked highest nightmare difficulty. If I were to die in there, it would be a massive blow to the entire Lijiang city. The old principal just shrugged it off. After watching me publicly reject those famous universities, he knew deep down that I had to be holding some sort of hidden trump card. Before I could even get close, a cat demon lunged at me from the shadows. I quickly grabbed the bronze tier weapon, the undying blood axe, from my bag. This was part of the resources the mayor gave me earlier, and it has a passive, mortal wound, effect. It's way stronger than the one-handed sword the system gave out. I killed that cat demon in a single hit. Even though I'm only level 10 right now, I've spent the last 2.5 months constantly training in the trial grounds provided by the system. My average attribute scores have already reached the level of a level 13 professional. That's why I felt confident enough to solo a nightmare tier dungeon. Looking at the shadows closing in on me from all sides, I decided to take the initiative this time. I swung my massive axe and activated the skill, Weapon Blessing. This boosts my strength and weapon attack power within a certain radius. Then, I followed up with a control skill, Pure White Blade. Even though it's mainly for crowd control, under the boost of my Holy Light Affinity talent, the critical damage was enough to wipe out a whole wave of mobs. The audience watching this was treated to a total visual feast. They started guessing that I must have dumped every single attribute point into strength. Otherwise, there was no way I could one-shot a whole group of monsters like that. But an old man with a lot more experience didn't agree with them. He knew that if you looked closely, you'd see that both my speed and the flow of my skills were top-notch. This meant that besides my strength, my wisdom stats had to be incredibly high too. Plus, my attack range and power were perfectly controlled. Seeing this kind of skill from a level 10 rookie was simply unbelievable. Back inside the dungeon, another pack of cat demons came rushing at me. I stuck with Pure White Blade, using the area of effect damage to kill the ones leading the charge. The ones in the back didn't die instantly, but the skill effect completely locked them in place. I charged in with my big axe to finish them off. As the me. This had to be the portal to the next stage. Little did I know, the spectator stands were in an absolute frenzy because of me. I had cleared the first stage of a nightmare dungeon in just 3 minutes and 17.33 seconds. That's a full 30 seconds faster than last year's top student in the province. As soon as I stepped out of the portal, a huge pack of monsters was already waiting for me. Seeing how aggressive they looked, I realized my strategy from the last stage wouldn't work here. These monsters were higher level, and they actually worked together with clear roles. Standard cat demon warriors were the front line, while the glowing cat demons handled group healing. On the flanks, there were fire and dark curse cat demons for crowd control and cover fire. Not to mention, there was a level 14 elite minotaur standing guard right at the back. What I was looking at wasn't just a group of monsters, it was a well-trained army. Just as I expected, the moment the fight started, my body was paralyzed by a spell from the dark curse demons. Immediately, those cat demon warriors charged at me like lightning. But before the exam started, I had done my homework. So, just a second before those warriors reached me, I raised my hand and instant cast the class skill, Holy Cross. I channeled all my paladin power into my palms. A burst of divine energy shattered the curse on my body instantly. The leftover light rippled out and wiped out all the cat demons in front of me. Since light element skills have a massive advantage over these low-level dark element monsters, it's a perfect counter. If this had been any other dungeon, I might not have chosen to solo it. The director was completely speechless. He always thought paladins were just a support class. This is a total cheat. It can flip the entire battle in an instant. It turned a 1 versus many brawl into a 1-on-1 duel, and the holy light affinity I just used is at least a rank B area of effect divine skill. Now, the only one left on the battlefield is that powerhouse minotaur. This guy is incredibly clever. First, he used a super armor skill to block my pure white light blade. Then followed up with a war stomp to force me into the air. But against absolute strength, all of that is futile. The second I was launched into the sky, I used that momentum to strike. I used my main skill, Sky Rending Slash, to tear through his defense. That way, his super armor state would vanish. Then, I finished him off with another pure white light blade. After a massive boom, the minotaur collapsed unconscious in a pool of blood. This whole stage took me less than 1 minute. Right now, in everyone's eyes, I look like an invincible god of war. In the stands, the old dean is absolutely ecstatic. You have to understand, since this academy was founded, our best record was only top 1000 in the province. He's starting to think that, if nothing goes wrong, I might actually make history. I could become Lijiang City's first provincial, no, national, top ranker. Even the director, who usually looks down on everyone, couldn't help but clap and cheer. He can't believe the person on that screen is just a student who recently finished his class awakening. That level of seasoned experience, it's making even an old veteran like him click his tongue in shock. But suddenly, his face turns stern. Why? Because I didn't even stop to rest. And teleported straight to the final boss stage. By now, I've already arrived at the third and final boss room. My target, the level 16 boss monster, the Minotaur King. Because the level gap is so huge, I can't even inspect his skills. Facing the strongest monster in this dungeon, my eyes turn cold, and I decide to go all out with my talents. A golden light flashes, and I transform into my paladin initial form. But even with 4 different buffs active, my repeated slashes can't even scratch the Minotaur King's defense. Suddenly, a surge of demonic energy blasts out of him and sends me flying. He lunges out of the dark mist and slams a heavy punch right into my chest. But, it was that very punch that made me realize something. The reason I was able to land hits on him earlier wasn't because his defense was high. That he was choosing to tank the damage. It was because his agility is way too low. It's killing his reaction time. I quickly sweep my arm across and unleash the Paladin's exclusive class skill, the Spear of Victory. This is a high-speed, rapid-fire area of effect skill. It's the perfect counter to his weakness. But then, the system warns me. Mana is dropping rapidly. Please replenish your mana immediately. This is bad news, but I've just discovered another one of the Minotaur King's weaknesses, his resistance. His defense only looks high because he has incredible durability and a massive health bar, but his actual resistance is surprisingly low. As long as I keep landing these hits, I can take him down before my mana bar runs dry. In those final moments, the Minotaur King stares at my phantom-like movements. He tries to muster everything for an ultimate attack, but I'm not giving him that chance. I gather every ounce of my paladin power and slash straight through his chest. The moment the Minotaur King falls, the system pings. Dungeon cleared. Nightmare difficulty, Gloomy Forest. Cleared. My final evaluation is rank SSS. I've officially taken the #1 spot on the leaderboards. My reward? A full set of Gloomy Forest gear. and 10 wild strawberries. Eating them will restore a good chunk of my mana. Plus, a gold-grade Minotaur King card. Once successfully enchanted, it boosts your gear's strength by 20 points. Hearing that, my heart was racing with excitement. All these years of sacrifice, it's finally paying off today. If I can stay in the top 100 after all the other schools release their results, then getting into those 3 top-tier academies shouldn't be much of a problem at all. When I stepped out of the assessment dungeon, the dean was incredibly warm and insisted on arranging a luxury car to take me home. He also mentioned that the province-wide results would be released in 2.5 days. He said he'd notify me immediately if there was any news. After that, I had the driver take me straight to the hospital. Secretary Zhou had promised me that if I performed well enough in the big exam, he'd transfer my little sister to the city's largest hospital. But the moment I reached her room, I felt the temperature inside was completely wrong. Layers of ice crystals were even forming on the door. I used a skill to force the door open, only to find the medical staff inside frozen solid like ice sculptures. A figure stood by my sister's bed. I recognized her as Sister Qing, the priest Secretary Zhou had sent over. She was in charge of monitoring my sister, but now she told me the illness had relapsed. It's spiraling out of control. Unless a grand priest comes to take charge of the situation, it won't just be Zhou Yun, the entire hospital will be devastated by the impact. Hearing this, I could only cast my paladin's healing skills to try and slow down the progression of her condition. Then I turned to Sister Qing and urged her. She had to get Secretary Zhou to bring in a grand priest. I told her I'd kept my end of the bargain. Furthermore, if he helps her now, I'll give Secretary Zhou my word that I'll do anything he asks of me in the future, no strings attached. About 2.5 hours later, a ball of green light suddenly shot out. It slammed into the frost, surrounding the dragon that had manifested from the frozen ice. The newcomer gestured for me to back away. Then, with a wide sweep of her arm, she swung her staff. She traced a rune that merged into the massive dragon's body. The ice dragon struggled for a moment, before completely vanishing into thin air. As I watched the icy aura fade from my sister's body, I thanked the figure before me. But the grand priest simply said there was no need for thanks. She hadn't actually cured my sister's strange illness. She suspected it might be a sign of a bloodline awakening. Ever since the eternal game merged with reality, many players have chosen to abandon their humanity to join other races like elves or giants. Consequently, these non-human players began to exhibit distinct racial traits. For instance, those with elven blood might have different colored eyes and long ears. Those with giant blood would have massive, sturdy builds. Over the last 250 years, these non-human players intermarried with humans. After generations of bloodline dilution, their descendants' physical traits slowly faded, but every now and then, something special happens. That special case is a bloodline awakening. Looking at past examples, once someone awakens non-human power, whether it's leveling up or farming monsters, it becomes twice as easy. But if the awakening fails, at best, you end up brain dead. And at worst, you lose your life. The reason my sister, Zhou Yun, has been in a coma all these years is simply because her body is too weak. She can't handle the power of the bloodline inside her. To endure that power, her constitution must be strengthened. So, the Grand Priest suggested that I keep an eye out for one thing, the Glacial Ice Lotus. It could help my sister safely awaken her bloodline power. However, 10 years ago, a mysterious person bought it for the staggering price of 1,400,000,000. Besides that, there's one other way. We could use a Grand Priest's sealing technique to completely lock away the non-human bloodline inside her. In other words, we'd be giving up this massive opportunity, and she'd never be able to level up for the rest of her life. So, the Grand Priest told me to make the choice myself. Once I've decided, I can use this token to contact her to perform the seal. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed since the big exam. I was in the yard, training as hard as I always do, when suddenly, a system window popped up with a notification about the exam results. It congratulated me on becoming the top scorer of Suhang province. Achievement rewards are being issued to me right now, while every major news platform is blowing up with reports about me. The news of me becoming the provincial champion is everywhere. But people aren't just surprised that I entered the dungeon. They're absolutely shocked that a paladin was able to solo a nightmare-level dungeon. It's the top headline everywhere. How? The headlines scream. After all, isn't a paladin supposed to be a team player rather than a solo fighter? But my success has also sparked a lot of resentment among other candidates. Especially those seed students from elite schools, having their top spot snatched away by a loser from some no-name school. Naturally, they feel like they've lost a lot of face. Just then, I received a notification for a bank transfer from the city government. Right after, Secretary Zhou called to tell me that recruiters from the 3 top-tier universities should be arriving any moment. And sure enough, just 2.5 minutes later, the recruiters had almost all arrived. Magic Capital University was the first to make an offer. They promised me 1 A-grade resource every year, plus a full set of gold-tier equipment. It sounds simple enough, but the value of a full set of A-grade cultivation resources is worth nearly 10 billion dragon coins. And honestly, you can't even really measure that kind of value with just money. Suhang University's offer was even more straightforward. They've always lived by the motto, strength is king. They promised that if I can break into the schools, heaven and earth rankings, they'll give me S-grade cultivation resources. I started weighing my options. The special recruitment perks from all these top schools were pretty much on the same level. On the surface, Magic Capital and Xinjiang University seemed like they'd have a more comfortable learning environment. But if I really want to sharpen my combat skills to the absolute limit, Suhang University is the place for me. After thinking it over for a moment, I made my final choice, Suhang University. Once the admission contract was signed, Teacher Su, the recruitment officer, told me to report to the campus in 1 week. She explained that special recruits like me have to start high-intensity training earlier than everyone else. All of this is to get us ready for the upcoming National Freshman Exchange Tournament. After all, the competition between the 3 top-tier universities is incredibly fierce. None of them are willing to just hand over the #1 spot to anyone else. About 1 week later, I took my little sister to a luxury villa in the suburbs. This was the provincial champion reward given to me by the city government. I asked Secretary Zhao to keep a close eye on my sister. This special training is going to last for a long time. I'm a bit worried that her condition might get worse while I'm gone. Then, I followed Teacher Su through a magic teleportation array and arrived at Suhang University. I was stunned to see that the university is actually built on a massive, majestic mountain. Using my Paladin's detection skills, I noticed that one of the students actually has demon blood in them. And even some teachers carry the bloodlines of other races. Then, she used a spell to produce my student ID card. I looked at the text on the card and felt a bit confused. Besides credits, there was something called a sequence. I didn't really get what they meant. Teacher Su explained that the sequence is the ranking system at Suhang University. Every grade has its own sequence ranking. The stronger you are, the higher your rank. For freshmen, the initial sequence is based entirely on our scores from the big exam. My student card shows sequence 001. Basically, it means I'm ranked #1 among all the new students. But she warned me that these rankings are only temporary. Everything will be reset in 1 month, based on the results of the freshman competition. Then, she explained the credit system. Every freshman gets base credits according to their sequence number. These credits are the currency used on campus. You use them for food, buying gear, skill books, and other items. In fact, if you have enough points, you can buy absolutely any resource available in the school's mall. Aside from the base credits, there are 2 other ways to earn more. The first is by completing credit missions. You use your student card to log into the school's official website, pick a mission from the panel, and you'll get the reward once it's done. The second thing is the heaven and earth rankings. Depending on your rank, you'll receive a fixed amount of monthly credits. This ranking doesn't distinguish between grades and includes roughly 5,000 students in total. Competition for the heaven and earth rankings is fierce. Besides that, Suhang University has 3 secret dungeon instances. The first dungeon is called the Goblin Dungeon, with a level requirement of 17 to 21. The second is the Twisted Jungle, meant for levels 23 to 26. The final one is named Purgatory, and it's restricted to levels 28 to 31. To enter a dungeon, you don't just need to reach the required level, you also have to spend a certain number of credits. Before reaching the appropriate level, freshmen can train at the training grounds. You can practice with friends you've made arrangements with, or use the robots provided by the facility. After listening to Professor Su's introduction, one thing became crystal clear to me. If I want to get the most resources out of Suhang University, I have to let my strength do the talking. Fortunately, I thrive in a competitive environment like this. Just then, a group of freshmen happened to walk toward me. Some of them looked at me with intense curiosity. Since we were all new students, they couldn't understand one thing. Why was I being personally guided one-on-one by a professor, while they were being led in groups of 10? They were being led by upperclassmen, and once the seniors heard their whispering, they started explaining the situation. Every year, the #1 specially recruited freshman at Suhang University is handled personally by a dedicated professor. As soon as those words left his mouth, the crowd erupted. They had definitely heard rumors about this year's top freshman. Word was that he was the top scorer from Suhang province, a Paladin. However, the students who didn't know the details were skeptical. After all, Paladins are usually seen as a team-oriented support class. You have to realize that in the top 10, almost everyone has a class focused on extreme damage output. For example, there's Shen Lingfeng, sequence 002, a berserker with absolutely terrifying destructive power. As we were passing each other, a red-haired guy from the group stepped right in front of me. He was Ah Kun, a level 13 Retribution Paladin, ranked sequence 038. He figured that my sequence 001 spot was nothing more than a stroke of good luck. Because of that, he wanted to challenge me right then and there at the training grounds. The senior leading them told him to get back in line immediately. He explained that sequence 001 was chosen by the principal and the deans of the 5 major colleges through a joint vote. There was zero luck involved in that decision. Ah-kun ignored him and stepped closer to me, declaring that he wanted to bet 100 credits on the match. The winner would take the 100 credits from the loser. As I thought about those tempting credits, I realized I had another reason to accept this challenge. Besides this red-haired guy, there were bound to be others thinking the same thing. It was better to use this opportunity to make an example of him and shut the rest up. I spoke calmly. Since this is the first challenge among the freshmen, why don't we raise the stakes to 250 credits? At those words, Ah-kun's face turned pale, and his entire body began to tremble uncontrollably. As sequence 038, 250 credits was pretty much his entire starting balance. If he lost, his future life at the university would be an uphill battle. Seeing my confidence, some voices in the crowd started shifting to support me. After all, if I didn't have the strength to back it up, I probably would have run away long ago. Soon, Ah-kun and I walked onto the challenge stage one after the other. As soon as the referee gave the signal, Ah-kun charged at me, swinging his greatsword. His Retribution Paladin class, like mine, is a hidden branch of the Paladin class. The only difference is that a Retribution Paladin focuses entirely on extreme offensive power. Ah-kun's blade came crashing down toward me. I shifted my weight slightly to dodge the blow, and in that split second, I saw my opening and drove my foot straight into his completely unguarded stomach. That single kick sent him flying 10 meters back, right off the edge of the arena stage. The sight left me a bit speechless. I honestly expected sequence 038 to have at least some actual skill. I didn't expect him to be such a glass cannon. After the school doctor took a look, turned out Ah-kun had 2.5 broken ribs and was suffering from internal bleeding. His entire body was covered in fractures. Meanwhile, those 300 basic credits he was holding were successfully transferred into my account. My performance just now caught the eye of someone in the crowd. Usually, the Punishment Knight's charge combined with a blood slash combo is incredibly difficult to counter. Yet, I managed to shut him down effortlessly with nothing more than a basic leg whip. Beyond my unusually calm composure, she felt that my strength attribute had to be at least an entire tier higher than Ah-kun's. She then stepped out from the crowd and challenged me to a fight. I turned around and realized it was the same girl I'd seen back at the gates. The one with the demon bloodline. Taking a closer look at her now, I saw she was even carrying a piece of legacy gear, a 3-star legacy grade, ancient dark moon sword. Soon, the second arena challenge of the day began. The moment the fight started, the demon girl gripped her ancient dark moon sword and unleashed her extreme shadow skill. Not to be outdone, I raised my massive hammer and met her head on with Storm Hammer Strike. With a deafening boom, a thick cloud of smoke and dust instantly swallowed the stage. When the smoke finally cleared, the demon girl was staring at me with a look of pure shock. She hadn't reacted in time with her second skill, Demonic Slash. She might not even be standing right now. My own heart started racing with excitement. Finally, I found someone who can actually trade blows with me. In an instant, our figures collided once again in a blur of motion. Every single impact sent violent tremors through the entire training hall. Before long, the arena was literally split down the middle. One side swallowed by the girl's demonic energy, and the other bathed in my angelic light. Everyone watching, including Teacher Su, couldn't help but be amazed. If they didn't know exactly what was happening, no one would ever believe this was a duel between two freshmen. One of the seniors with more combat experience noticed a problem, though. Even though Paladin and Spirit Swordmaster are both legendary hidden classes, it was clear that the Paladin side held the upper hand in this fight. At the start, the girl had to block once for every 3 hammer strikes I threw. Now, I only had to swing twice before she was forced to raise her sword just to stay upright. The ancient dark moon sword is a heavy-duty weapon meant for a defensive counterattack style. She tried to play it that way at first, but as the fight went on, her combat rhythm was being completely dictated by me. If I could just find the right moment to deliver a single, full power blow, she simply wouldn't have the stamina left to hold it back. On my end, after using the hammer strikes to gauge her strength, I stopped holding back and activated the Divine Blessing buff. Boosted all my attributes across the board, and with a sharp wave of my hand, I summoned the Spear of Victory. By this point, the Spirit Swordmaster had almost no energy left for defense. Realizing she was cornered, she went for broke, using Ghost Shadow Slash to lunge toward me. But it was exactly what I expected. In the blink of an eye, the tip of my Spear of Victory was pointed directly at her eyes. The result was undeniable. The Paladin wins this round. The demon girl stood up and admitted that my offensive was almost like a steamroller. She accepted her defeat gracefully, but I could tell she hadn't actually gone all out. From start to finish, she never revealed the Spirit Swordmaster's trump card skills or that massive dark energy hidden inside her. Afterward, Teacher Su led me to the student dorms, a special perk for being a recruited talent. The dorms were all individual villas. Just as I was about to head inside, Teacher Su called out from behind me, stopping me in my tracks. "Zhou Yi, I heard you're looking for the element of extreme cold." She then shared all the information she had with me. Aside from that extreme cold ice lotus that was auctioned off over 10 years ago. Apparently, an exploration team recently spotted another one over in the Gale Mountains. But back then, there were high-level magic monsters guarding it, so they had to give up on harvesting it. As soon as I got back to my room, I hopped online to search for info on the Gale Mountains. The Gale Mountains is a massive range that only appeared after the blue planet merged with the Eternal Game. Because of that, it's filled with countless rare treasures and endless opportunities. However, the Gale Mountains are also home to many vicious and violent magic beasts. Even powerful high-level class users wouldn't dare venture in there lightly. With my current strength, going there would basically be a one-way trip with zero chance of coming back. But this is an emergency. My sister's body can only hold out for another 2.5 months at the most. I remembered that I'd earned a life-saving skill from the system as a reward during the big exam. With that, even if I die, I can be resurrected. So, I went onto the school's online marketplace to pick out some skills worth learning. Since I'm the 001 top-tier recruit, I can learn any Paladin skill below A rank for free. Then, I used the 600 points I just earned to finish my Deep Forest equipment set. Once I was geared up, I headed out alone to the Gale Mountains located in the outskirts. Based on what Teacher Su said, there's an extreme cold ice lotus growing somewhere in those mountains. Meanwhile, deep within the Gale Mountains, a team was desperately fighting off a demon army. Demons are one of the 5 great races from the other world. They are naturally violent, bloodthirsty, and incredibly strong. Even though this team was quite capable, they had to use every single trump card they had. Just to barely kill 4 demons. Facing the endless wave of demons rushing toward them, they were completely out of options. At that life or death moment, a white figure, like a ghost, drifted behind the demon army. Boom! A massive explosion shook the ground. A wall of fire instantly swept through the entire demon army. Then, a holy light slowly began to form, enveloping the entire area. As the demon's wails faded away, I rode out on a massive wolf beast. I stepped slowly out of the fading light and walked up to the team. I used my paladin healing skills to treat their wounds. I recognized them. If I remembered correctly, they're from Suhang University. They were the Blue Phoenix team, ranked 3rd in the entire school. And their captain was the famous swordswoman from the leaderboards, Su Qinglian. Su Qinglian, leading the group, walked over and asked if I wanted to head back to the supply base with them. After all, even though the light elements in my skills were effective against demons, there were far more dangerous things lurking in these mountains. I thought about it. I only came to the Gale Mountains this time to scout things out. There are less than 3 days left until the freshman competition. Once I finish the competition and get the system rewards, I'm confident I'll be ready to step into the deeper zones of the mountains. While we were on the road, Senior Su Qinglian told me a bit more about the Gale Mountains. Actually, the demon race is rarely seen in the outer areas. The fact that they're here now means there's likely an interdimensional rift nearby. As witnesses, we needed to immediately report it to the military base? I asked, feeling a bit confused. I remember that because the Gale Mountains are crawling with magic beasts, the military wanted to stop them from raiding the cities. They built a mage tower specifically to monitor every single move those beasts make. So, if anything unusual happened, they should have been the first ones to act. Hearing that, Su Qinglian spoke up calmly. The mage tower mainly tracks the ones deep inside the Gale Mountains, she said. It's meant for high-level magic beasts, the epic and legend tiers. As for these silver-rank demons, because of the otherworldly aura they carry, concentration is lower than the tower's detection threshold. So, most of the time, these low-level monsters are almost impossible for the mage tower to spot. However, these demons appearing on the outskirts have clearly been sent through an interdimensional rift. But if they've already opened a rift, there's no reason to send such weaklings, let alone expose the rift's location on purpose. This means the other side might be planning something big in the Gale Mountains. Just as we were nearing the military base, I sensed humans up ahead being swarmed by demons. I immediately turned to Sister Su and told her to take the wounded back to the base first. I'll head back as soon as I save them, I yelled, then spurred my white wolf and charged toward the scene. I couldn't mistake this aura. It was definitely Zhang Qiran. I could sense the demon blood in her veins. But what on earth is she doing here? At that very moment, Zhang Qiran was trapped in a brutal fight against 20 silver demons. Even the elite Qingluan squad, at full strength, could only handle maybe 4 demons at a time. Yet here was Qiran, holding her ground all by herself against a relentless wave of 20 demons. It was clear that if this kept up, she'd be swallowed whole by that demonic tide. The demons were circling her without dealing a finishing blow, obviously trying to slowly bleed her dry. They were split into groups of 10. Even if she managed to kill some instantly, others would fill the gap immediately. She had no chance to break away and escape. Despair began to cloud Chiran's heart. Suddenly, a terrifying, bone-chilling energy began to gather in the sky. An instant later, dozens of golden lightning bolts slammed right onto the demons' heads. Even the strongest silver demons stood no chance against that apocalyptic lightning. They were obliterated on the spot by that massive surge of power. Chiran stood there, completely stunned. She slowly turned her head and saw me, riding a white wolf, charging through the swirling dust. "Get back," I screamed. There was a demon right behind her, coiled and ready to strike. But in the blink of an eye, that demon suddenly went into a berserk frenzy. Its power doubled instantly, and to make matters worse, several other demons of all shapes and sizes began pouring out of the rift. Seeing this, Chiran yelled at me to run. "Get out of here, they've gone berserk." She thought that no matter how strong I was, there was no way I could take on a demon in that state. To her, the only way to kill it was to sacrifice herself in a final explosion. But I acted like I didn't even hear her and scooped her up. The berserk demon roared and slammed its massive fist into the ground. I flickered away, dodging the blow easily. It was time to stop holding back. I raised my hand and unleashed Light of Retribution. A blinding pillar of light fell like a crashing star. It slammed into the demons with a deafening roar. The damage from the spell was absolutely insane. None of the demons could escape. They were melted away by the light in an instant. I couldn't help but chuckle. No wonder the mage is the most sought-after class. That one earth-shaking attack was more than enough to prove why it's so incredibly cool. But the battle was far from over. At that moment, the demons who had managed to survive launched their attack once more. In the blink of an eye, a massive swarm of demons gathered all around me. There must be nearly 200 demons here. Only an area of effect skill can wipe them all out at once. But they're too spread out. I need to find a way to lure them all into one spot first. With that in mind, I raised my hand and cast a buff on Zhang Chiran. I told her to go and distract the demons on the left. But remember, I warned, don't get bogged down in the fight. As soon as I finished speaking, I charged straight at the demons. Demons reacted instantly, unleashing energy waves to strike back. But before they could even finish their spells, I swung my massive hammer and slammed it down with everything I had. Zhang Chiran watched the display, her face full of pure shock. As far as she knew, there wasn't a single holy knight who could ever reach this level of power. Plus, she'd noticed something incredible. Those buffs had boosted every single one of her stats by 25%. But just as Zhang Chiran got distracted for a second, a demon lunged out from the shadows, appearing right in front of her. She snapped out of it instantly and stuck to the plan. Meanwhile, relying on my own overwhelming strength, I cut down several demons in rapid succession. But as time ticked by, the number of demons around us began to skyrocket. My instincts were right. To the demon race, anyone carrying the power of holy light is like a beacon. They're irresistibly drawn to it. Looks like it's time for my ultimate move. First, I targeted Zhang Chiran and unleashed the skill, Holy Light Protection. A golden barrier slowly rose, forming a shimmering dome that bathed my teammate in a divine, sacred glow. It granted total immunity to all physical damage. Then, a sacred golden cross began to glow upon my chest. Every single monster caught within the radiance of that golden cross started taking massive, continuous burn damage. In just a few heartbeats, the demon horde was decimated by the sheer power of the attack. Seeing this, Zhang Chiran's eyes were already gleaming with admiration. From this moment on, she was officially my biggest fan. But the fight wasn't over yet. The remaining demons lunged at us with even more ferocity. I quickly wove my hands through a set of seals and began to chant. My second skill, Holy Storm. Multiple golden blades, forged from pure holy light, plummeted from the sky. Then, at the moment they struck the earth, a massive golden tornado erupted from the ground right in the middle of the demons. Anything the storm touched was sucked into the vortex. Even the demons in a berserk state couldn't escape their doom. Not far away, a few other adventurers were hiding, silently watching the battle unfold. Just feeling the shockwaves from the fight was enough to leave them trembling with fear. Normally, in a one-on-one fight, a level 20 adventurer would just barely be a match for one of these things. Yet here I was, wiping out hundreds of demons all by myself. Right then, every single one of them had the same thought. They had to get on my good side. Meanwhile, the rest of the Astral Phoenix squad came rushing toward the scene. They had come to back me up, but the moment they saw what was happening, they all froze in their tracks. There wasn't a single demon left standing. Looking ahead, all that remained was a mountain of corpses. After that intense battle, I successfully reached level 18. I popped the cap off a healing potion and downed it in one go. Within moments, I was back to peak condition. My mana pool had grown after leveling up, but with so many high-tier skills, I was still running a bit low. Suddenly, Zhang Chiran collapsed to the ground with a thud. She must have overexerted herself during the fight. She had fallen into a weakened state. But then, I received some grim news. The Demon Legion works just like a human army. They have commanders leading them. Judging by the number of bodies here, this clearly wasn't their main force. Which meant, this was nothing more than a small scouting party for the Demon Legion. We had to get back to the supply base immediately. But right then, an absolutely terrifying pressure washed over us, pinning us to the spot. We couldn't even move. I looked up and saw that the path ahead had been completely sealed off by a barrier. There, at the edge of our vision, stood a massive white dragon, radiating an overwhelming, crushing aura. And there, standing atop the white dragon's head, was the unmistakable figure of a demon. It was none other than the legendary 3-star demon commander, Olimas. He just stood there, perfectly still. Yet everyone felt a crushing weight like never before. At that exact moment, the magic tower overlooking the Gale Mountains blared an alarm. Level 4 otherworldly invasion confirmed. All Legion members, assemble immediately. Full combat alert. Hearing the news, the soldiers who were in the middle of training dropped everything and marched toward the plaza in perfect formation. The logistics department began counting the magic boxes to ensure the front lines had plenty of supplies. Meanwhile, the mages focused all their power on locking onto Olima's position, preparing a massive teleportation array to warp the entire Legion at once. Now, every soldier of the Snow Dragon Legion stood ready on the magic circle. At the same time, on the other side, Su Qinglian activated her Eye of Inquiry and instantly realized this was a force led by a legendary demon. Even worse, almost every demon in that legion was silver rank or higher. She started desperately calculating a way to cover my escape. To her, I was the peerless powerhouse destined to lead humanity to its peak. If she had to give her life for that future, she'd do it in a heartbeat. The rest of the Qingluan squad felt exactly the same way. Just then, a massive magic array materialized in the sky. Countless soldiers in heavy armor began pouring out, one after another. Zhang Sharan stared at the circle in total confusion, but the Qingluan squad couldn't hide their excitement. It's the Snow Dragon Legion. Every member is at least level 30, and their commander is a super powerhouse at level 51. I, however, was a bit confused. If they're teleporting, why wouldn't they just warp directly to us? Su Qinglian's face suddenly went pale. The Legion was supposed to land right in front of the demons, but they were way off target. The high-level mages quickly scanned the area and discovered the demons had already set up a forbidden tier magic barrier called the Dark Rock Wall. Once it's active, the space inside is completely cut off, no teleporting in, and no attacks from the outside can get through. To break this barrier by force, you'd need the combined power of at least 2.5 legions. Otherwise, you just have to wait for it to fade. For the barrier to fully dissipate, it would take 5 whole minutes. The Legion commander's face darkened with worry. He knew that anyone caught inside that barrier was as good as dead. He turned to his adjutant and sighed. Gather the information on the people inside. We'll notify their families to come. Claim them when this is over. Back inside the barrier, a new system notification for an achievement task popped up. The mission? Kill the Demon Prince, Olimas. The rewards were insanely good, better than anything I'd seen. Not only was there an S+ rank talent, but also a bottle of some mysterious potion. I took a slow breath and stepped forward. Suddenly, a terrifying aura began to surge from my body. Olimas watched me and finally spoke. Such a thick holy power. I see, you're the one who slaughtered my kin. As soon as he finished speaking, the white dragon lunged at me like a bolt of lightning. I didn't dare drop my guard for a second. I summoned my giant axe as a raging fire began to swell inside the dragon's maw. In the blink of an eye, a torrent of terrifying flames erupted toward me. I didn't back down. I gripped my axe and swung, meeting the fire head-on with a powerful strike. In the next second, the two attacks collided violently in mid-air. It was just a casual swing on my part, but even a gold-rank dragon couldn't handle it. Its body buckled, and it began to fall. Orimus plummeted from the sky. I moved like lightning, seizing the chance to strike. Orimus spun around, his blade a blur of desperate slashes, but I was simply too fast for him. In a heartbeat, I closed the distance. I lunged at him, but his reflexes, they were just as sharp. He stared at my descending warhammer, feeling a weight of pressure he'd never known before. Confusion filled his eyes. How could this human, a mere level 18, be doing this? My strength completely eclipsed his. It was impossible. I let out a sharp laugh, mocking him without mercy. So, this is the legendary tier? I sneered. Turns out the only difference between you and gold tier is that you're a better punching bag. Orimus's face contorted with rage. Beside himself with fury, he threw caution to the wind and lunged at me again. Boom! A deafening explosion echoed as Orimus was sent flying, crashing violently into the dirt. I didn't give him a second to breathe, following up with Light's retribution. Panicked, Orimus summoned his flame demon shield. 6 bolts of golden lightning tore through the sky, but the shield held firm, soaking up every impact. 2 rounds down, I started to get a feel for his limits. Standard skills aren't going to cut it, not against a legendary demon. Fine then, let's see what that ultimate skill I got from the grand exam can really do. At that same moment, Orimus realized the truth. He couldn't win this fight alone. He roared, summoning his demon legion for backup. But as he did, I unleashed my ultimate. A massive wave of golden energy erupted from within me, turning the dark sky into a brilliant, blinding noon. Zhang Sharan and the Azure Phoenix squad watched in dead silence. Even the Legion commander nearby couldn't hide the shock on his face. Paralyzed by that overwhelming power, the charging demon army ground to a halt. Orimus felt it too. An ancient, terrifying force was about to descend upon him. And then, in the very next second, a colossal, terrifying hand manifested in the heavens, slamming down toward the demon prince's head. The mere shockwave from that strike sent tremors through everyone's soul. It was pure terror. Even Zhang Sharan could feel her succubus bloodline screaming in fear, trembling violently. Orimus took the hit, his body battered and his pride wounded. He was absolutely livid. This was a stain on his entire race. No human had ever dared, or managed, to hurt him like this. Pushed past his breaking point, Orimus snapped. With a guttural roar, he forced his army forward. The demon legion swarmed toward me. In an instant, the air was thick with 1,000 flying curses. Hundreds of demons' penalty, just pure, unadulterated power. Lets the user channel the light god's strength, boosting every attribute to the absolute limit of what the body can handle. On top of that, my health and mana recovery speeds shot up 20 times. Here we go. A pillar of sacred golden light erupted from my core, piercing straight into the heavens. The power was staggering. It shattered the demon barrier like it was made of glass. The demons couldn't even get close. The light pushed them back like a physical wall. Even the curses on my body vanished instantly. Seeing this, a cold knot of dread began to tighten in Orimus's chest. I stood there, bathed in golden radiance, with mysterious runes circling my body like a protective halo. And then, the six-winged angel, the one who first granted me the light god's power, slowly began to materialize. As the angel's feathers drifted down, they exerted a strange, overwhelming pull on every demon present. They couldn't help but draw closer, stretching out their hands, trying to catch those falling feathers. In the blink of an eye, the feathers erupted into flames without any warning. The Legion commander recognized it instantly. It was the rite of god descent. As far as he knew, only the highest divine classes could use such a skill. It's a top-tier ability that allows a mortal to briefly borrow a portion of a god's true power. He had once seen a powerful priest of level 58 use a similar skill. With just that one move, the entire legion's wounds were healed instantly. That was the only reason their legion survived that war when they were surrounded by 3 demon armies. Aramis's heart was thumping wildly against his ribs at that moment. He recognized it as a god-level secret art, too, and he just couldn't wrap his head around it. How could a measly level 18 paladin possibly borrow the power of a god? He knew all too well that divine power was beyond imagination. It existed on a completely different dimension than mere mortals. If that ritual is allowed to finish, it won't just be him. His entire demon legion will be completely wiped out. But to construct a magic circle big enough to teleport everyone away, he still needed at least 1 more minute. Thinking fast, Aramis made a desperate, bold choice. He ordered every member of the Flame Demons to sacrifice everything they had right now. The Demon Legion was fiercely loyal to Aramis. Without a second thought, they began offering up their very lives. Aramis started frantically absorbing that massive wave of energy. There were many gold-level warriors among them. If he successfully absorbed all of it, there was no telling how terrifyingly strong he would become. As Aramis's aura continued to skyrocket, his presence grew more and more overwhelming. My own god descent ritual was nearing completion. At that moment, the 6-winged seraph's gaze turned cold as ice. Paladin, I shall grant you the power of the god of light. God has spoken. Let there be light to strike down every demon in this world. The moment those words were uttered, a devastating force slammed directly into Aramis. He didn't even have time to react before he was sent flying, though he only seemed to suffer a few superficial wounds. After devouring the essence of so many demons, his level had jumped all the way from 23 to 43. The terrifying pressure radiating from him made everyone nearby tremble with fear. Aramis launched a counterattack instantly. A blast of flame roar surged toward me, but he wasn't done. He immediately followed up with his true killing blow. It was the ultimate skill condensed from the entire flame demon race, the Balrog Sun. A massive rock, the size of a meteor, began to take shape in front of him. This sphere had compressed fire to its absolute limit, with a surface temperature reaching a staggering 25 million degrees Celsius. If his kin hadn't sacrificed every ounce of their strength, he never could have pulled off a move like this on his own. With a violent swing of his hand, he hurled that terrifying Balrog Sun straight at me. I stood my ground, my face calm and unbothered. I calmly swung my hand, releasing a simple, plain blade of pure white light. Yet, that seemingly ordinary move smashed the Balrog Sun into total dust. The holy light was so blindingly bright that everyone assumed I wouldn't be able to dodge Aramis's ultimate attack. They were all breaking into a cold sweat for me. But as the smoke and dust slowly cleared, my figure remained standing there, completely unharmed. This sight drove Aramis to total despair. He finally realized that the gap between our strengths was a chasm he could never cross. Seeing that the magic circle was almost finished, he thought if he could just slip inside. No matter how powerful I was, I wouldn't be able to kill him. I saw right through his plan and spoke softly. In the name of the God of Light, I sentence you to death. Under the crushing weight of that power, his body froze instantly. A second later, Aramis collapsed to the ground without a sound. The remaining low-level demons were thrown into a blind panic. I couldn't believe that even the legendary Aramis was no match for me. My body gave out from sheer exhaustion, and I plummeted straight out of the sky. When I finally came to, it felt like a massive boulder was crushing my chest. In a panic, I shot upright, gasping for air. That feeling was absolutely miserable. I felt like I was about to suffocate. But before I could even catch my breath, Zhang Sharan suddenly appeared right in front of my face, as if by magic, and gave me a quick smack on the cheek. I was stunned, my eyes practically bulging out of my head. I just froze there, completely blindsided. I never expected her to pull a move like that. Once she'd hurried off all embarrassed, I turned my attention to the system panel. I looked up and realized, to my dismay, that I'd been out cold for 2 whole days and nights. I missed out on several daily quests. Thankfully, the rewards for this achievement quest were incredibly generous. Looking closely, it's an S+ tier healing skill called Death Defiance. Just the name alone tells me it's something special. Without a second thought, I grabbed a knife and plunged it right into my own arm. In the blink of an eye, the wound closed up and vanished completely. A smirk played on my lips. It took only about 2.5 seconds to heal the injury. With a skill like this, staying alive is going to be a lot easier from now on. The rewards also included an S-tier elixir of fortune that boosts luck. Now, this is a real treasure. It'll definitely come in handy during a crisis. As for the final reward, it's a divine skill, the Holy Flame Ring. I remembered it instantly. It was the gift the angelic god bestowed upon me during the descent ceremony. I honestly didn't think I'd be able to keep this skill permanently. Plus, it's an enhancement skill that grants me control over the fire element. If I activate the Holy Flame Ring while using Light's Retribution, wouldn't that make me a dual-element mage of both lightning and fire? Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Wang Liang, the vice commander of the Snow Dragon Legion. He came by on behalf of the entire legion to thank me. It was thanks to my help that they managed to capture so many demons. To show their gratitude, the legion prepared a bounty of treasures. With a wave of his hand, he projected the items right in front of me. Everything here was meant for me. He told me to just pick whatever caught my eye. My eyes lit up. Something I'd been looking for immediately sprang to mind. Vice Commander Wang, do you happen to have an extreme cold ice lotus here? Wang Liang paused for a second, then swept his hand across the air. A flower emitting an eerie, frigid aura appeared. It cost 1 billion contribution points. The extreme cold ice lotus was right there before my eyes. I looked up where he was pointing. This was it, the very thing the high priest said could save my sister's life. Wang Liang's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the price. That ice lotus cost as much as 3 years of his salary. He'd definitely have to get the commander to reimburse him for this. However, the lotus was still in the headquarters warehouse. It would take at least 2.5 days to get here. He offered to arrange a monster hunting trip with some people my age if I got bored waiting. I quickly waved him off. I'm sorry, Vice Commander, but I have to head back to school tomorrow for the freshman tournament. Just ship the lotus directly to Suhang University. After seeing him out, I checked the time. Since it was still early, I decided to knock out today's daily quests first. Meanwhile, the members of the Qingluan squad had come to a unanimous decision. They wanted to invite me to join their team. Su Qinglian walked up to my room and knocked. I was pretty surprised when I opened the door and saw her. Senior Su, what brings you here so late? She didn't beat around the bush and got straight to the point, asking if I had any interest in joining her Qingluan squad. I was taken aback for a moment, then politely declined. Su Qinglian didn't seem surprised at all. Given my current strength, being in a team would only slow down my leveling efficiency. But that wasn't the only reason she was there. She also wanted to thank me for saving them back in the Gale Mountains. With that, she suddenly leaned in and planted a soft kiss on my cheek. I just stood there, completely frozen, my mind going blank. Are girls nowadays really this bold? Meanwhile, in a nearby conference room, Commander Shu Yuzhou was delivering a report. According to the latest investigation, the demons have actually mastered a way to travel through medium-sized rifts. A high-ranking official spoke up slowly, questioning him. Commander Shu, are you absolutely certain? Do you realize the weight of this information? Shu Yuzhou replied without a moment's hesitation. For a long time, otherworldly creatures could only invade Earth through large spatial rifts. However, since there aren't many large rifts, the threat was manageable. Because of this, he verified the findings multiple times and discovered that creatures below level 30 are now able to pass through small and medium-sized spatial rifts. After getting a definitive answer, the official immediately began issuing orders. Representative Yang, notify every major legion across the country. Have them inspect every medium rift immediately. Representative Zhang, attend the international summit and share this intel. We must keep a close eye on the reactions from other nations. At that moment, Shu Yuzhou continued speaking. Actually, we owe this intel to a young man named Zhou Yi. He used the god descent technique in the Gale Mountains to defeat the demon prince, Orimas. On top of that, our investigation shows he's an awakened paladin, a newly discovered hidden class. He's also the top scorer of the Suhang Province College entrance exams and currently holds the #1 rank among the freshmen. The moment he finished, the entire room fell into a dead silence. 2.5 seconds later, everyone else broke out in utter shock. A genius from Suhang Province? Could he be a descendant of the Frost Zhou family? And a paladin as a top scorer? The official shifted his gaze towards someone nearby. Representative Wang, I'll leave it to you to assess Zhou Yi's situation when the time comes. Watching this, Shu Yuzhou couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy. Everyone in this room was among the nation's top powerhouses. That Representative Wang was actually Wang Wei, the principal of Suhang University. If I could catch their eye, my future career would surely be paved with success. A day passed quickly. Over at Suhang University, preparations were underway for the annual Freshman Grand Competition. Wu Meng, the dean of the War Academy, stood up to represent the faculty. This competition consists of 2 stages. The first stage is the Dungeon Realm Challenge. Scores will be calculated based on the chosen difficulty and clear time. The second stage is the highly anticipated Arena Tournament. Each student has 3 chances to challenge a higher-ranked defender. If you win, you swap ranks. Right now, Teacher Su was looking incredibly anxious. Even now, there was no sign of me anywhere. The students below the stage were starting to whisper among themselves. Many of them came specifically to see me. Could I have actually forgotten about the Freshman Grand Competition? You have to realize, the rewards for this competition are massive. Wu Meng shouted loudly. The first stage of the Freshman Grand Competition officially begins. A second later, a portal materialized out of thin air before everyone's eyes. Since this year's freshmen are the strongest and most talented batch in years, this year's Realm Challenge will include an additional Abyss difficulty level. This sent a wave of excitement through the students. Abyss difficulty is several times harder than Nightmare mode. That means the rewards for clearing it will definitely be doubled, with a sharp ding. The detailed information for the dungeon appeared on the gate, the Sign Den. Level requirement, 12 to 19. There are 4 difficulty levels to choose from. A moment later, the students were swept into the dungeon by beams of light. Meanwhile, Wu Meng looked at the candidate list, feeling a surge of confusion. Why aren't candidates 001 and 003 here? Teacher Su stepped forward and spoke softly. They went to the Gale Mountains for training earlier, but neither of them has returned yet. Hearing this, Wu Meng was furious. Since these 2 students don't seem to take the competition seriously, he decided right then and there to drop the rankings of 001 and 003 to the very bottom. Right then, I rushed back as fast as I could, carrying Zhang Chiran in my arms. A second later, the deans were all staring in shock because I didn't even hesitate before choosing Abyss difficulty. Ding! The system notified me that I'd entered the Bear Monster's Den dungeon. Note: monsters in Abyss difficulty are extremely berserk. Please be careful with the timing of your return scroll. Thud! I grabbed my giant hammer and charged straight into the pack of bears. At the same time, the other top geniuses were also fighting their hearts out against the white bears. The deans from every academy were constantly keeping a close eye on every student's performance. Wu immediately switched the viewing window to my perspective. He wanted to see for himself what gave me the right to be so arrogant. But the moment he switched over, he saw me clear the first room of the dungeon in just 5 seconds. This made Dean Song Chi from the Weaponry Academy wide-eyed with shock. I'd actually cleared it in only 5 seconds. What's more, I was using a support skill, Holy Flame Halo, and yet I was one-shotting those bear monsters. Is it possible he put all his points into the wisdom attribute? Wu Meng's voice was actually trembling now. There are many factors that determine skill damage. You can't really tell just from one battle. But one thing was for sure. My strength definitely lived up to my rank as number 001 for this year. As I tore through the dungeon at high speed, it ended up taking me less than 2.5 minutes to clear the Abyss level Bear Monster's Den. My final evaluation was triple S rank. I even broke the dungeon's all-time record. Then, the final clear rewards were issued. I got a B+ rank skillbook, the Hammer of Repentance, which increases speed up to 50%, and a choice between 3 A- rank talents. The first was Steadfast Protection, which adds 50% to certain stats, and increases both resistances by 30% when using a shield. The second would increase my movement speed by up to 50% once I entered a combat state. The third was the Focus Aura, which also increases speed by 50%. But more importantly, it gives a 30% chance that my skill casting won't be interrupted. I was stunned. I didn't think clearing a dungeon could actually reward you with a new talent. You have to understand, talents are incredibly rare. Back then, I only managed to awaken as a paladin because of my S+ rank talent. That's how I got the Paladin class. And even though I set a new record during the Grand Exam dungeon, I didn't get a talent reward then. Does this mean setting a new record in a silver rank dungeon always gives a talent reward? As for the 3 choices, Steadfast Protection is better suited for a paladin who follows the tank path. Swift is decent enough, I suppose. But it pales in comparison to the focus aura. In a one-on-one fight, the most important factor besides raw strength is testing your reaction speed. So, if your reactions are fast enough, you can change the tide of battle in an instant. Plus, that 30% chance to ensure my casting isn't interrupted is huge. After I picked my talent, an option popped up asking if I wanted to unlock the bonus stage. Even through the door, I could smell something disgusting. I really hope this bonus stage has a nice surprise for me. Dean Xianxia couldn't stop praising my performance in the dungeon. Not only were my combat techniques flawless, but my elemental control was outstanding too. Wu Zhao couldn't help but sigh in admiration. He was just glad he hadn't been reckless enough to rank me at the bottom of the list earlier. Otherwise, the principal would have literally eaten him alive once he got back. At that moment, Dean Zhangxi from the Tactics Academy shared an observation. He felt that the paladin skills I mastered were just too well-rounded. As I level up, the cost of distributing stat points will become massive. If the school doesn't step in to help, my potential might end up being wasted. Anyway, I teleported into the bonus stage of the dungeon. Right then, I remembered something. The notorious Blood Abyss incident from decades ago. It was caused by a 3rd-rank class user who worshipped an evil god. He secretly sacrificed an entire mid-sized city. Tens of thousands of lives were wiped out overnight, and his level instantly shot up from 54 to 89. Even though the inspector eventually arrived and wiped him out in an instant, the souls used for the sacrifice, they could never be brought back. That's why the government strictly banned those forbidden arts. But humans aren't the only ones who worship evil gods. Beastmen, giants, and even elves might fall into darkness. And this boss right here? It's clearly a fanatic follower. Without a second thought, I struck first. I unleashed a divine storm right at that corrupted white bear. At first, the beast just stood there with a look of pure disdain. It probably thought my moves were just pathetic attempts to break a mountain with an egg. But as the storm closed in, regret hit it like a ton of bricks. There was a deafening boom. The demon bear's body began to disintegrate within the storm. I kept my eyes peeled, not letting my guard down for even a second. A moment later, that bear, the one that should have been dead, it actually resurrected right in front of me. And now, the beast was even more arrogant than before. It acted like there was no way in hell I could ever kill it. Seeing that, I stopped holding back. I raised my hand and activated my skill, Hand of God. I made a sweeping motion, and a massive palm descended from the heavens. It slammed down toward the white bear with crushing force. Even though the beast kept trying to revive itself, the sheer intensity of the holy light was enough to kill it over and over. Before long, its life force was completely snuffed out. Ding! The system notified me that I'd cleared the bonus stage. My level jumped to 19. I also picked up a gold tier item, the bear monster horn. Actually, there's a trick to this bonus stage. The moment I stepped in here, I sensed a very faint, sinister power lingering in the air. Wasn't elemental energy. It felt exactly like the sensation I get when I use my god descent technique. Every time that demon bear resurrected, that dark energy would fade just a little bit. That's what made me realize the white bear was a loyal vessel for an evil god. So, the right way to clear this wasn't to slowly chip away at its health bar. The secret was to one-shot it repeatedly, forcing it to drain the evil energy from the surroundings until it was bone dry. This bonus stage wasn't just a test of raw power, it was testing a candidate's perception. If you count them all up, you had to kill that demon bear 10 times before it was gone for good. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, Principal Wang Wei was watching the feed. Seeing my performance, he finally realized that Colonel Shu hadn't been exaggerating about me at all. He even suspected that if this competition didn't determine our future resources, he probably wouldn't have even bothered to show up. 2.5 minutes later, the second person finally cleared the trial, Shen Lingfeng. He had also chosen the Abyss difficulty. But right now, his mind was spinning. He couldn't wrap his head around how anyone could be faster than him. He comes from the Zhongning clan, one of the 8 great families. There was no way he should lose to some guy from the backwoods of the north. But then, a thought struck him. He figured I must have skipped the bonus stage. He assumed I just took the easy way out and exited early. Thinking that, the scowl on his face finally started to vanish. I had no idea what he was grumbling about over there. Was he seriously that upset about the dungeon? 2.5 hours flew by in a flash. With the first phase of the competition officially over, the final scores for every student were tallied up. First place, Zhou Yi. Dungeon clear time, 4 minutes and 57 seconds. Bonus stage clear time, 1 minute and 12 seconds. Totaling, well, it wasn't even close. Coincidentally, the top 3 spots matched the student IDs 001 through 003. Shen Liangfeng's face went pale as a sheet. Being the runner-up in the entrance exams was one thing, but now he was second again? and he was trailing behind me by more than 10 minutes. He decided right then that in the upcoming arena matches, he was going to show everyone what he was truly capable of. Then, Dean Wu Meng's voice boomed across the grounds. He announced the start of the second phase. Each contestant would get 3 chances to challenge someone. There would be a 5-minute break after each round. Hearing this, Shen Lingfeng immediately sent me a challenge request. He wanted to see for himself if I really had the strength to keep him under my thumb. Besides, the third time's a charm. He just couldn't believe he'd lose to me 3 times in a row. Zhang Sharan recognized Shen Lingfeng at a glance. He's this year's freshman rank 002. He hails from the prestigious Jiangning clan and possesses the incredibly rare flame dragon bloodline. As for why he resents me, it's likely because my sudden rise to the top snatched away his title as the #1 recruit. The moment I stepped onto the arena, the flames surrounding Shen Lingfeng surged violently, growing several times more intense. Then, he swung his massive hand forward with a world-crushing force, charging straight at me. The deans watching from the outside couldn't help but praise him. Shen Liangfeng's assault might look reckless, but he activated his blood berserk immediately, completely cutting off any chance of me using a combat buffing skill. However, a split second later, Shen Liangfeng's eyes filled with utter disbelief. When on earth did I cast this Holy Light Shield? He'd researched me beforehand. He knew that the B+ rank defensive skill, Holy Light Shield, which can mitigate a portion of damage, was the one thing he didn't want to see. But to his shock, I managed to pull it off anyway. I chuckled softly. "You really are quite clever," I said. But, I continued, "you overlooked one thing. It only takes me 0.025 seconds to cast Holy Light Shield." Honestly, I was actually looking forward to this, hoping for a truly challenging fight. But now it seems it's nowhere near my expectations. With that, I raised my giant hammer and swung it toward him. I slammed it down hard, landing a solid, heavy blow right on Shen Lingfeng. Not only that, but his protective shield shattered instantly. Before he could even process what happened, I appeared right behind him and swung my hammer again, sending it crashing toward him. At that critical moment, Shen Lingfeng activated his flame dragon form. That had to be his final trump card. The boost from the flame dragon form was terrifying. Both his strength and speed doubled in an instant. With his bloodline power active, he really was a different person. Unexpectedly, he actually managed to dodge my skill. Shen Lingfeng gave a smug little smirk. His flame dragon bloodline wasn't just limited to close quarters combat. In a flash, a massive surge of dragon breath energy erupted from his mouth. It was a terrifying skill, fueled by the purest essence of the flame dragon's power. In the next heartbeat, those monstrous flames were right in front of me. The students in the stands couldn't help but start worrying for me. After all, this was the most powerful signature move unique to the flame dragon bloodline. I slowly spread my hands and released my skill, Holy Flame Halo. The halo suddenly burst with a blinding light, and in the blink of an eye, it swallowed and absorbed those towering flames whole. Shen Lingfeng stood there, completely stunned. This was the dragon breath power, legendary for being the world's strongest attack. And for some reason, the moment he met my eyes, he felt an overwhelming urge to drop to his knees and surrender. The residual energy from the Holy Flame Halo immediately blasted into him. It didn't take long before the referee announced that Shen Lingfeng had lost the challenge due to losing consciousness. The second person to step up and challenge me was Song Xiaolin, a level 17 Spirit Taoist. She's ranked 005 among the freshmen. I'm familiar with the Spirit Taoist class. As a unique hidden class exclusive to the Central Summer Kingdom, they specialize in using various talismans and sealing techniques. Back when we were trying to figure out my sister's illness, a grand priest once suggested using a grand sealing art to ease her condition. Song Xiaolin was incredibly confident. She told me that if I was up for it, she wanted me to show my full strength. She even promised not to interfere while I cast my buffing skills. Her words were met with dead silence from the crowd. No one realized that while fighting Shen Lingfeng, I hadn't used a single buffing skill. Plus, this Song Xiaolin was the young miss of the Song family, the top clan in Yungi province. You rarely see someone of her status being so approachable and easygoing. I chuckled softly. As you wish, I'll take this fight seriously. With that, I unleashed every single one of my buffing skills at once. Song Xiaolin looked on in pure awe. "So," she whispered, "this is your true, peak form." Song Xiaolin wasn't holding anything back either. I put my full strength into it and took a massive swing with my hammer of repentance. Whoosh! It went hurtling straight toward her. Seeing this, Song Xiaolin immediately summoned a talisman, preparing to strike back. Destiny shines bright, stars light the path. Sacred talisman manifest, follow my command. As her voice fell, a powerful spell landed with pinpoint accuracy right where I was standing. But Song Xiaolin suddenly got a bad feeling. As the dust cleared, I was nowhere to be seen. I had already slipped away, completely undetected, and circled around to her back. Relying on her raw combat instincts, she barely managed to block my sudden strike, but staying on the defensive wasn't going to save her. Gritting her teeth, Song Xiaolin decided to play her trump card. Heaven and earth lend their power. Beings transform into elite troops. Divine might revealed, follow my command. Seeing this, I just gave a low chuckle. It was the classic Taoist technique, summoning soldiers from beans. Still, this only fired up my competitive spirit even more. I gripped my hammer and started smashing everything in front of me with wild, heavy swings. These summoned soldiers weren't actually that hard to deal with, but they had incredible recovery powers, just like that demonic giant bear. It was a pain. I couldn't wipe them all out in a short time, so my best bet was to take down Song Xiaolin directly. With that thought, I blinked right behind her. Song Xiaolin felt the heavy wind from my hammer whistling toward her back. And she quickly raised her hands in surrender. Our power levels just weren't in the same league. She accepted her defeat completely. After I had beaten candidates ranked in the top 5 one after another. The other students below the stage, who had been itching for a fight, suddenly lost all their courage. Meanwhile, the deans of the 5 major academies were all busy doing their own mental math. Dean Wu Meng, in particular, was absolutely determined to recruit me. Scene shifted as the second phase of the freshman competition finally ended. With an overwhelming record, I took the top spot on the leaderboard. Right behind me were Zhang Qiran and Song Xiaolin, while Shen Lingfeng had long since tumbled out of the top 10. Once the distribution of resources was finalized, it was time for the moment everyone had been waiting for, the Academy Selection Ceremony. Suheng University is divided into 5 specialized academies. First, there's the War Academy. It mainly focuses on teaching students practical combat skills and improving their survival out in the field. Simply put, it's about making sure you can stay alive when things get ugly. Even though large-scale invasions of the Blue Star are rare these days. Every year, many professionals still lose their lives on the border battlefields. Then, there's the Elemental Academy. They only recruit students who excel in elemental mana, where they can dive deep into the ultimate mysteries of magic. Next is the Weaponry Academy. It's designed for students to master all kinds of different weapons. Nowadays, they even have a specific discipline focused on perfectly fusing the body with the weapon, allowing for an even more explosive display of power. Then, we have the Tactical Academy. Its goal is to train students in command and battlefield strategy. The Tactical Academy treats everyone equally. No matter what your class is, you can choose to join. Studying there is incredibly difficult. You can only graduate once you've mastered a massive amount of tactical knowledge. Finally, there's the Logistics Academy. As the name suggests, it mainly recruits various life-based classes. Here, students learn professional skills for support roles, although it's mostly life-oriented. A powerful logistics system is often what decides victory or defeat on the battlefield. Zhang Qiran looked a bit puzzled, wondering which one I would pick. To be honest, I hadn't made up my mind yet. For a paladin, any of these academies could work. Just then, Dean Wu suddenly cleared his throat twice. He told me if I chose the War Academy, he would personally step up to be my exclusive mentor. On top of that, he offered me 3 exclusive Paladin skill books and an A- rank resource exchange token. You have to understand, each mentor can only take on 1 exclusive student. That student gets the absolute lion's share of resources, not to mention giving me an A- rank token right out of the gate. Just as I was weighing my options, Dean Songqi couldn't contain himself any longer. He promised that if I joined the Elemental Academy, he would personally hook me up with a complete set of legendary-grade equipment. Seeing this, the other deans started chiming in one after another, offering me everything they had without a second thought. They were promising me the highest level of resources since the Academy's founding. This whole situation felt strangely familiar to me since Suheng University was established, every single dean fighting over one person. But right at that moment, a calm voice spoke up. "Zhou Yi, come and be my disciple." Everyone instinctively, it drastically boosts my constitution. Plus, every time I level up, I would receive even more attribute and skill points. Hearing this, the other students were once again completely stunned. Never mind Wang Hui's massive status in the entire country. His top disciple is actually the leader of the #1 guild, Tianyu. If I were to say yes, even without any other resource packages, those connections alone would be enough to make my career skyrocket. Seeing this, the other deans finally gave up on their plans. This was the first time Wang Wei had ever openly competed with them for a student. Then, the headmaster slowly pulled out a medal. This is the Golden Medal of Honor awarded to me by the nation. Seeing this, Shen Lingfeng looked like he was about to spit blood from sheer rage. As a prodigy from a great family, he knew exactly how much weight that golden medal carried. Even his own powerful family had only earned that kind of glory many years ago. Zhang Qiran walked over and grabbed my arm. Even her grandfather, who had fought on the front lines for years, had only ever received a few silver medals of merit. For my part, I was just confused. I couldn't remember doing anything so great that it would warrant a major reward from the country. Even if I took out the demon army in the Gale Mountain range, that still shouldn't be enough to earn a golden medal of honor. After thinking it over, I stepped forward and took the medal. I've made my choice. Headmaster Wang, I've decided to become your personal disciple. Hearing that, Wang Wei slowly summoned a magic circle. The situation is urgent, he said. He needed to perform the bloodline smelting ritual immediately. A moment later, I was teleported to a place I didn't recognize. I thought to myself that this was likely the headmaster's private vault. So, we were probably outside of Suhang province, or maybe even outside the country entirely. The headmaster began to explain that bloodline smelting could refine my very foundation. Whether a professional can truly become powerful depends entirely on their choice of source blood. The bloodline potential of a normal human is extremely limited. That's why many professionals, after finding they can no longer level up, choose to use the blood of other races to refine themselves. My eyes widened in shock. Does a powerhouse like you also have to worry about being unable to level up? Of course. At his level, every single rank requires a massive, staggering amount of experience points. He's currently around level 64. Since it's nearly impossible to kill otherworldly creatures of the same level, it's incredibly hard to rank up. Wang Wei had prepared 3 types of source blood for me. Dragon 60. I'm a little confused. Teacher, if I'm following you correctly, would the most suitable prime blood for me right now be the angel race? Wang Wei gave a slight nod. You're exactly right. While Titan and Dragon prime blood primarily focus on boosting strength and magic, only the angel prime blood can grant you a complete, all-around evolution.